this section, we'll be taking a look at how we can make some grass and some vegetation that you see here for the Proxy version. So again, I've just got a folder in here and a group under template, and we just got grass and we've got ferns within here. So let's take a look at what we need to do to create the grass. So we can go ahead and say create Polygon Primitives, and we're just going to use a plane. We'll do the option box for this, and let's just reset the settings for that. And I'm going to do width divisions. I'll do 3 for this, and then height divisions, let's just do 3, hit apply. And let's see what this gives us here. So if we scale this up, we'll just scale it up to about here. We'll take it and put it on the rotate tool, tap E. I'm going to hold down J, and I'm going to rotate into place here 90 degrees like this. So you can see here in the channel box like that. Let me just go ahead and move this thing forward and move it up a bit. So actually I can change the subdivisions for the width, and I'll put that to 2. I just want something that's running through there like that. And you can see I've got the divisions on here. I've got like 1, 2, 3 through there. So I maybe need one more through the height, so I'll just do 4 like this. And so then I can scale this down to about like right here. And then the next thing I can do is just right click on here and say vertex and select these vertices that you see here. Or you can hit F9 and you can select them that way. Then we'll shift right click and say merge vertices and say merge vertices to center. And then I'll merge those verts right to the center, just like you see there, like that. And we can take these verts, maybe move them up just a little bit and scale them in. And then maybe we can take these, scale them in just a little bit like this, and maybe these at the bottom, something like that. Now that's going to give us a nice flat piece. Now if we take the center verts like this and hold down Shift and hold down Control and Shift, we can add to a selection like this, and then just move these things back just ever so slightly. And then I'm going to use the soft modification. So if you tap B, that'll turn this thing on. And if you hold down B and then click and drag left mouse, you can control the size of this. Now the first time you do this, it might be a little bit large for the size, so double click on this and go to the options for soft selection, and we can see the fall off radius. Let's put that down to like 1 or something like that. So now you can see if we hold down B and then click and drag, it'll give us this nice radius for a fall off, just like that. And I'll put on the rotate tool and I'll rotate this, and you can see what's going on here with this soft kind of selection, this soft modification like this. If I grab more, I can kind of bend this here like this, and I'll tap W for the move tool, then just kind of move it into those 2 different axes like there. To turn it off, I'll tap B. So again, you can always tap B to turn that on and off, and that's turning this off and on right through there. So I'll hit F8 to go into object mode, or you can right click on here and say object mode, either one. So I'll call this, let's see if I call this grass blade like this, underscore blade underscore 001. And if I do that, then I can duplicate this thing a bunch of times. So let's just do this. Let's do the isolate select again. We'll go to show, isolate select, view selected, turn the grid on, and let's just put this thing back to the center of the world like this right here. I'm going to raise this piece up right in through there and just have it sit right in the center of the world. So I'm going to go modify, freeze transformations. I'm going to freeze the translation, rotation, and the scale, and I'm going to hit apply. And then I can do this. I can say modify, reset transformations, and it should put the pivot down into the center of the world. I'm going to hit undo for that, just so I can show you there's another way. You can tap D, and that'll put us in this mode where we can move the pivot wherever we want. We can hold down X and temporarily turn on grid snapping, and then move this in the center and snap to the grid. And tap D again, and that takes us out of that mode. Now let's get rid of the history. If you remember, the hotkey for that is Alt-Shift-D, or you can go to Edit, Delete by Type, History. So now we've got one grass blade made, and we can duplicate that, Control-D, or you can go to Edit and Duplicate, either one. We can move these things like this, maybe rotate this guy just a little bit like that, maybe scale it down this dimension, Control-D to duplicate it, and then we'll maybe take this part and kind of rotate it just a little bit, maybe rotate it this way. So the goal is to get some coverage, but you just don't want it to look like you've just copied the same piece over and over again. You kind of want to get some variation going on in through there. And anything in nature, you don't see too much of a repeating pattern for stuff. So we're going to do something like this and rotate it in just a little bit. Rotate it like that, and then just scale it down. Accidentally hit the space bar, so let's just move this back and through here, and then this like this. Now what I could do is grab all these pieces and move them forward just a little bit and have the grouping in the center. Or I could take all these pieces, select this, hold down Shift, and we can group this, Control G. Alright, after we hit Control G and we group the grass, then you can see we've got a group that we can just manipulate and kind of move around. And if you want to bring everything back, let's just go to Show and do Isolate Selected and say View Selected. And then now we've got an opportunity to take this and move this around into the world and kind of move it up and down in space, duplicate it, and then move those around, rotate them, and just kind of make things look a little bit different that way. So you can double up on some of these things, kind of move it into place like this. And that should give you a lot of options to kind of work with. I just named this grass underscore gr underscore 00 like 1 for the first one, and then that will give me my first group that I can kind of start working with. So I'm just going to select these and delete them and just get rid of them. The next thing that we can take a look at is making the fern. So in this last part, we're going to be taking a look at how we can make one of these ferns that you see here. And so basically I'm going to take and make a cylinder that you see here. So we're going to go create Polygon Primitives and we'll do cylinder like this. And let's just go ahead and scale this up quite a bit. I think if I do this to something like about 30 within here and go to the options for this and do the subdivision axis, do that to 8. And you can see what we got going on here like that. Let's just do this. Let's do Show, Isolate Select, and do View Selected so we can get a better look at this. We don't need any divisions on the cap on this, so we'll put that to 0. And then subdivisions through the height, let's put that at 10. And that should give us some pretty good options for the thickness that we see here and the length of it. So let's just move it up, make it sit on the grid that you see here. So we'll move this up 30 units like this. And then we can tab D, and then that's going to move the pivot point. Hold down X and snap it to the grid. Tab D again to release that. And so then now our pivot point set. We can go to Modify Freeze Transformations, and that will freeze out all the transformations on there. And let's just delete the history on this, Alt-Shift-D. Now we can collapse all the verts on here. We can right click here and say vert, and then we can shift right click and say merge vertices. We could do that to center, or we could right click on here and say face, and we can select face and then shift right click and say merge faces to center. Either one will be fine. Let's just go ahead and select these verts. We'll scale like this. I do have symmetry turned on, and if I have symmetry turned on and I want to scale to the center, you can see it might cause some issues like that. So let's double click on the scale and we'll turn on symmetry. I'm going to just turn symmetry off real quick like that and reselect this, and now I can scale, and it's going to scale to the middle. I'm just going to build some kind of tapering with this just ever so slightly and pull this one down just a little bit and pull this down and through here like that just a little bit, just like this. Okay, so then let's just go ahead and say create Polygon Primitives, and we'll do a plane like this, and I'll scale this thing up like this, and then I'll take this and rotate it into place. Hold down J and rotate it like this here, and then move this up into place. Let's just scale this up right about like this, right in through there. So I'm going to take the polygon plane and let's do subdivisions width. Let's do 4, and then through the height we'll do something like 4 and through here. Now I want to collapse all these down together up in here, so let's right click and say vertex and select all these, shift right click, say merge vertices to center. And then now if I want to model symmetrical with this, let's go to the move settings, double click this, go to symmetrical symmetry settings, open that up, do symmetry, and let's just do world X, and then that will take a look at the grid settings and the world, and you can see that I've got this on X, and so that's what's causing this to allow us to model in symmetry like this. So this comes in quite handy, and I'm going to take these pieces right here, kind of pull this in. You see how we're kind of editing this shape like this and building some nice kind of rounding through here. like that, and then let's just space this out just a little bit like that, and I'll pull this down and through here like that, and just like that. So now I'm going to take these pieces here and just kind of pull them forward just a little bit. Take these right here and pull them forward just a little bit like that, and everything's pretty good on there. There we go. And let's just space this out just a little bit more, and we'll space this up just a little bit like this. Now the next thing I want to show you is if we do this thing, if we got an object mode, hit F8, let's delete history, Alt-Shift-D, and if we tap 3, that's going to do the smooth mesh preview version for us, which is kind of cool, but you see how it kind of like softens out this top part. If we right click on here and go to our vertice and we select it, if we go to our mesh, let's see, mesh tools, and we go to crease, we can middle mouse drag this and we can crease a vertice all the way till where it's like completely creased like that, and that's kind of cool. So if we select this one down here, we can crease this one down here as well. And if you crease the edges, that's not really going to do much of anything. Now we could take these verts right here and kind of move them slightly to kind of build a little bit more of a curvature kind of shape for that. Now we're just doing this in a preview mode. So if you tap 1, that's going to take us back to our base cage. But if you tap 3, this is basically like working with subdivision surfaces at this point. Let's tap 1 to go back to here on this. Now I might take these verts that you see through here, through the spine of this, and just kind of move them back just a little bit more like that and through here. And I'll hit F8. We'll delete history on that. And then now we can call this leaf underscore 01, and we can call this stem 01. And let's take these two. I'm going to hold down Shift and hit Control G to group those. So we can go to Edit Group like that. And let's just call this Fern underscore 01 like that. And then because we group this, it's in the center, like we can take this whole group, we can move it, we can rotate it. Accidentally duplicated that. Let's hit backspace on that. So we can rotate the group and do all kinds of cool stuff to it. What I want to do now, I want to show you this. I'm going to select both these pieces, and we're under modeling. You can go to deform, and then we can go to nonlinear, and we'll do a bend deformer. So it's going to make this line that you see here. And I can take this line, I can rotate it. Let's hold down J, and I'll rotate it to where it's straight up and down with the object that you see. We can take bend, and then we can go to the curvature, and we can start to bend this thing. So if we do this, let's just bend it like right about here. So now you can see it's kind of bending in this kind of arc that you see. Now if we take the bend node, this bend handle, and we put on rotate, and if we rotate it back, let's just rotate it 90 degrees like this. And you can see now it's going to start to, I'm going to hold on control while I do this to get finer control. I can bend it this way, or I can bend it this way. Now if I bend it back, and I take the bend handle and I move it down to the base of this guy, right around in here, I can start to bend it that way. If I scale this thing up, you can see how I can start to build curvature that way. So we can have a lot of control over the curvature that you see here. So maybe I'll bend it back right about there. Now if you want to keep this live, this is one of those times whenever keeping history is like not such a bad thing. But if I want to freeze this, I can go and freeze that. One last thing I want to show you about this. So if I tap 3 for the smooth mesh preview for this, it's just a preview mode. If I want to convert that into actual geo, we can go to we're going to go to modify, convert, and then do smooth mesh preview to polygons. And that's quite a few divisions that we have on here. I'm going to do this poly smooth face. I'm going to put the divisions to 1, and that will reduce that down quite a bit. Now if I like the shape of this, I can delete the history, Alt-Shift-D, and then that becomes a static object. I can hit Alt-Shift-D on that as well, and we're doing basically edit, delete by type, and then history whenever we're doing that. So now we've got this fern within here, and then now I can take this and do show, isolate selected, view selected. We can move this thing out within the world, and kind of move it around. And you can see I built a little bit of a different kind of shape for this. So if you want to copy that exact kind of geo, that's fine for that. But I don't think the shape has to be so crazy specific. So I'll duplicate this, just kind of move it around, rotate it this way a little bit, scale this thing up just a little. And so you can kind of see what we're doing here with these ferns. Okay, so that should give you everything that you need for this scene. And I'll turn the grid off, just take one last look at everything. So we should have a proxy for the cannon now. We've got a proxy for the floor and for these tiles. And we've got a proxy for the grass and what will become these ferns that you see here. So that should be everything that you need for this section inside of Maya for being able to build all your different pieces for your proxy geometry.